number 206. Share what speaks to you. I am Kathleen Wiley. I am a Jungian Psychoanalyst in North Carolina, and I'm here with Deborah Henson-Conant, who is a composer, a performer, and an educator. We both play the harp, and that is why we call this Jung at Harp. And almost every week we come together to have a conversation that we invite you into. If you're joining us live, you can put your comments into the chat feature on whatever platform you're watching, and we'll see those, and that way you get to join us in the conversation as we explore a question that we are wondering about and feel is relevant both to our musical journey as well as our overall life. And I'll just start by saying, and remember to check us out on your favorite podcast platform, because we're there now. We are there. So,
and I'd like to say that we're not just there for each week, but we're going back and publicizing or promoting, what are they called? Publishing episodes from the past. Each week we're publishing one that's new and one that's old.
Yeah, so we're sharing, and we're sharing what speaks to us.
And we're sharing what speaks to each other.
And what speaks to each other. So we came up with this topic because I'm getting ready to play a set of tunes on the harp with my professional folk musician husband on Sunday. He typically does a St. Patrick's Day concert. And so one of the ways that I can calm my anxiety, because, I'm a professional psychoanalyst. I'm not a professional harpist, but maybe I am. I have been paid a few times. And so part of what helps me in moving towards it is that I'm only going to play tunes that I really love and that speak to me. Because I know the moment that I get in front of other people, that the only way I can stay centered is if I can stay focused on sharing what speaks to me. If I can really let myself drop into my own experience of the tune and share what is meaningful, what it is that I hear, but not just hear with my literal ears, but actually hear in my cellular experience. So we thought about then, what might this say to us, and what does it mean, and how do you share what speaks to you? So I'm interested, DHC, in what you have to say about that.
Yeah, it's interesting as you were speaking. I mean, when we came up with the subject, I was like, I love this because it's got so many different permutations, different ways. What speaks to you in what you see, what speaks to you. Like, I mean, what when you hear other people talk speaks to you. So when you were talking about what speaks to you about the music, I was thinking about years ago, I wanted to make a holiday album, and I was finding all kinds of music from around the world, holiday songs, and I made the album. And then I thought, as I was doing it, I started exploring harmonies. I was discovering more harmonies. Mm-hmm. And I thought, geez, I wonder if I could take a tune I really don't like, and if I could make myself like it. If I could change the harmony. Now, I'd like to say, and therefore I took this song and I did this. I can't, first of all, I'm in a different studio because I was doing a jazz harp workshop yesterday. And so I was here with my big concert harp, and it's probably totally out of tune by now. And I don't know if you can even hear it. Can you even hear it?
We can hear it.
Oh, the tune that I didn't like, and I'm not going to play exactly the harmony that I ended up with. I had to reharmonize it. And it was like, Tannenbaum. And there's something about that tune, I always disliked it. And so I started reharmonizing. And then I think I did something. I can't even know where I went with someplace else. I don't remember where I went, but I had to get out of that la 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 la. I mean, maybe that's a Christmas thing for some people, but to me, it's like oh, it's like, Christmas is coming for you. um, and and I ended up with a harmony, which I wish I could play for you now. I ended up with a harmony that I completely fell in love with, and it spoke to me.
Mhm.
So that was interesting. There's a song I mean, there are songs that I have hated since I was a child. There's a song called Plaisir d'amour, and I just it sets me on edge. There's something about the harmony of it, and
Mhm.
but it never occurred to me until just now. Oh, why don't you reharmonize that? And then as I'm
Mhm.
speaking to you right now, Kathleen, I'm thinking, okay, so this is interesting. This is something that I can do as a musician with music.
Mhm.
Could I do it with other things in my life?
Mhm.
And what are those things, and what would that look like? Something that doesn't speak to me at all, and then it does.
Yeah. It's funny because I have a note here on the notes that I keep from our week to week. A while back, I had made a note that said, next week, let's talk about harmonize with your own inner harmonic progression. And it's so funny. And I don't think we ever made that a topic. But as you're saying what you're saying, that I think is the key, is that what speaks to me is going to be my own inner felt sense, being in sync with my own inner rhythm, being in harmony with my own inner modulation, if I want to say it that way. And what I was struck with as you played as both versions of O Tannenbaum
Mhm.
is the first one was like a march, and the second one was like this lovely, soft love song.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then I thought
Right.
about the words, O
Mhm,
Tannenbaum, how
mhm,
lovely are their branches. And
mhm.
so, you found for you the spirit of the song and a way to express the spirit.
Yeah, interesting that you're saying that, because something else that spoke to me today, it's just something I heard somebody else say. They were talking about um, feeling like a spiritual spirit, like
Mhm.
the spirit. And she was saying something about how um, she thought about it as an electrical current.
Mhm.
And when she wasn't, but things inside of her could get in the way of that.
Mhm.
And if they got in the way of that, then it couldn't speak through her.
Mhm.
And that was just, it's reminding me of what you're saying. And it's so interesting that, like, I mean, as a kid, I was constantly playing around with harmony, finding harmonies that I liked.
Mhm.
But but if you don't have something that you have explored and discovered that you like, how do you find the thing out there in the world? I mean, I guess it's because you resonate with it.
Yeah, you resonate with it.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Just like the minute you found that harmonic progression for O Tannenbaum, you resonated. It spoke to you, and then you could share that.
Well, what about somebody who, like I'm teaching people all the time who don't necessarily have access to those harmonic progressions. I mean, they get access because I'm showing them, because I'd say, like, what if you take that little phrase and apply it? What if you move it? You know,
Mhm.
but then I've given them something to play with, and I've said, play with this. And
Mhm.
and see if that shows you something that you love. This is so interesting, because it's reminding me of that thing that I'm saying all the time. When you start being self-critical or critical of others, one thing that can reground you is find something to love.
Yeah, and get playful. I
Mm.
mean, I think that's such a
Mm.
key. We get so serious that there's a right way. There's a right way to do it.
Mm.
And that I should do it a certain way, that we tighten up, and the minute we tighten up, we lose access to the flow of our own inner spirit and our own inner harmony. And so the playfulness and this, when you give a pattern, when you give a harmonic progression, it's like, here's here's a toy to play with. See, you know, here's a Lego. See how you can build with the other Legos is an image I get. I mean, one of the classes you do that's still my favorite is the summer harp jam
Right.
with the progressions,
Right.
because it gives me the template. It gives me like a Lego building block that I can try out, and you know, I can try putting this here, this there, see.
Right.
Or I can try something, a different shape.
Yeah. So
Block.
for people who don't know what summer harp jam is, and you can do it all year round, it's mostly, it is a series of what you'd call vamps. So I'd set up something like this. And then I'll loop it. And so it creates these templates. And as you were speaking, I was thinking, gosh, I wish people would do that for the things I have to learn. But let me see if I can loop this. Looping now. Okay, no, because for some reason I don't know why it didn't go in. One more time. Okay. Looping. Okay, it's just not connected. I think I disconnected everything.
Well, we can hear it.
Anyway, so what happens is you put it into the looper, it repeats. So imagine that's repeating, and then I'll do something like this. So you repeat back to me. So it's all about vamps and calling. Oh, you can't hear me at all now?
Because we hear the music, the looper's going. Okay, now the looper stopped.
I cannot hear. I cannot hear the looper.
Oh, it was going very strongly.
Oh no, I believe you. I see what's going on. Okay. Anyway, going all for okay. My sound system is very different today. Anyway, everybody, I can't hear that looper. So it is not speaking to me. But if it were speaking to me, the components of that, you're talking about playfulness. And which I really love, because being full of play is fun, but being told to do something and then trying to do it right is super not fun. And so what the components of that playfulness are, which we can't hear right now, there is a structure. You know, I'm going to talk about that all the time. There's some kind of structure, whatever it is, versus go play. And then there is something to respond to. And I just realized what's so powerful about this, and I'm sorry we can't hear it, and it has to do with how the sound comes out of here. I'd have to stick earphones in to hear it. Anyway, being able to respond. And so what happens is when people are responding to me, I tell them, you can try to play exactly what I played if you want. You can try to do that. Or your response, I might go, and you might go. So responding can be copying, or responding can be doing something opposite, or responding can be doing something that is similar, or, you know, whatever. And having those things to play with and knowing how to play with them.
Right.
You're right. It allows us to then hear what speaks to us.
Right.
And then we can, so first we have to hear what speaks to us, or discover what speaks to us, or stumble on what speaks to us.
Yeah, experience what speaks to us. I mean, one has to, we have to have an awareness of what our own inner experience is. Otherwise, we don't know. And so then we end up trying to lead with our head, imposing something, and our body's just scrambled. You know, so it really does. It starts, if you're going to share what speaks to you, then you have to be tuned into what speaks to you. And what speaks to us first and foremost makes itself known through our bodily reaction, our physiological response, and the emotion that accompanies that response. When we feel moved by a song, when we feel pleasure, when we feel distaste or disgust, all of those things come up. We know that because of an emotion and body sensation that accompanies it.
You're making me think of something. So I was writing all these interview questions for the last 6 weeks. And one of the questions was, what's your teaching style? And I wrote out what I thought my teaching style was. And one of the members of Hip Harp Academy, I invited them to go look at this. And then she said, but please talk about, she said, you do this thing where you're explaining things to us and you're playing what you're saying. As you do it, you tell us, and it's so much easier for us to hear what you're saying when you do it that way. Now, it's true, and it's something that I would do all the time, at any moment, especially if someone asked me to talk about my emotions or something. It would be so much easier for me to talk about that with song. I also tend to not talk so fast when I'm singing. But what's interesting to me is that it speaks to them. And I start getting a little bit embarrassed sometimes that I would do that all the time if I could. So, yeah, so there's that idea of what speaks to me. I know what speaks to me, but I'm afraid that what speaks to me is going to be like, ew, do you know when you're around kids? Oh, God, sorry. I used to live with a family that used to have a cordon bleu chef as their mother. And so a meal was all about talking about the food and what quality it was. And there were kids. So they were like, ooh, you like that? So it's scary to share what speaks to you, because as you share that, you're letting people know what moves you, what's beautiful. Okay, that is a big issue for me right now. It's a big issue for me right now, because The Golden Cage, this play I've been writing my whole life, which is a map of my life with music that is, my soundtrack. It's done. It's ready to go into theaters. It's ready to be performed by theaters. And now it's my job to pitch it. And, part of me is like, well, if it was good enough, it would pitch itself, When is that thing going to go out and, leave the house and start doing something on its own? But that's not how it's going to work. And I know that for my character development, I do have to speak for it.
Yeah.
And I'm scared to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm scared that somebody one friend said, well, it's kind of like a children's thing, a children's show. And I was like, well, no, that was just the production. It was like the costumes, and I was like, that was just the production. That's the way that person produced it. That's how they made their costumes. But it has nothing to do with the show itself or the meaning of the show. It could be done in a very edgy way. There's nothing fundamental in it. Maybe there is something fundamental in it. I don't know. But wow, getting out there and speaking for something that speaks to me. Sorry.
No, I think this is a struggle we all have, and this is why we hide. This is why a lot of creatives never actually even allow themselves to express to themselves, because somewhere there is this inner judge, this inner killer that's going to kill it off before it's even out there. Part of what I just want to acknowledge the vulnerability, because when we show up and we're real, we are vulnerable. And Angeles Arian, who was a cultural anthropologist, who was also a spiritual teacher, she used to have the phrase, she would say, "In my defenselessness, my safety."
First of all, In my defenselessness, my safety lies.
And
Now,
my defenselessness, my safety, and that's to really contemplate what that means.
Mm.
It means that I'm the safest when I'm comfortable enough with me to say, this is me. And someone else may think it's not valuable, and that won't feel good.
Well, two things. I want to go back and I want to, as you were saying, so many of the creatives, they don't share. And I was like, Kathleen, how do you know that? If they haven't shared, then how do you know that they haven't shared? And then I was like, oh, maybe it's because she is the Jungian psych. Maybe she's talking to them. And I'm assuming that's how you know. There was something else, but anyway, so, actually, one of the reasons that I'm a harpist is because it was so difficult for me to share the music that was the most important to me, which is my musical theater. It was much easier to get out and play a harp. Mm-hmm. And that worked quite well, into jazz. Mm-hmm. You could give me any criticism, no issue. I had no problem with it. And it worked really well until the harp, what I started doing on the harp, started actually getting closer and closer to my musical vocabulary, to what I would actually say. And then it started getting, harder to share again, because now it was, for a long time, it just wasn't me. It was another me that I could hide behind. And that was very safe.
I think you're also saying something that's important, is that if we're going to share what speaks to us, then we also realize that what speaks to us at one point in time in our life may change. I mean, we may find that what spoke to me and what I shared 20 years ago is not what's speaking to me and I'm sharing now. Or maybe there's still a thread that's the same, but the form of it changes.
Yeah, well, what if it doesn't? I mean, I think that,
sometimes it doesn't. Yeah.
I am like, sometimes I think this about myself. I am not done. Any song I've ever loved, I am not done with that song.
Uh-huh.
Whether it's Oh Susanna or Get Along Home, Cindy, Cindy, or whatever, I'm not done. I feel like I've only touched the surface of what's available in that song. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of what embarrasses me. I would get out and I would, I love the song I've been working on the railroad. Well, somebody told me it's a terrible song to sing. It's about, I mean, I know that anyway, whatever. And I was like, now I can't sing it. I can't tell the story of it. And I can't talk about, Dinah. I'm in love with Dinah, who, like, Dinah, won't you blow? Whatever. Let's pull up somebody else before I start crying.
Okay.
Victoria is saying, what if the thing that moves you also moves others? Right. If you don't share it, others may never have the chance to experience it. Right. And I mean, absolutely, that is a sane way of thinking. That is a sane way to think.
Sane.
Yeah. And I think the issue is when we're not sane. And I think that, my fear of sharing my true creative voice is not sane. It's fear.
Yeah. And again, I want to just say, fear is a normal human response. We all have fear. It seems to be one of those affective responses that's just kind of hardwired into our makeup. I think that part of becoming who we are and really having the courage to share what speaks to us is we have to deal with that fear, and we have to mediate it. We have to temper it. We have to humanize it. Because the reality is, when we share what speaks to us, I do believe it will move people. And there will be some other people that it just bounces right off of. And that has nothing to do with us. If what we share speaks to us and we're speaking from our fullness and our heart, and it resonates for us, it will resonate with some other people. And there are going to be other people who are oblivious to it. But that's not about us. That's about them and where they are. It's not about us.
Well, I'm hearing what you're saying. And I'm also thinking about things like, I remember that being able to dance and play has been something I've wanted, since very early on with the harp. And I remember being somewhere where I wrote this song, Sienna's Dream, and it's about a dance. And I imagined that I could, in the middle of the show, I could just be playing and I could just just leave. And I remember I did it. And it didn't work. And in part because I was so, like when you're, and I wasn't a kid, but when you're a kid and you're like, I'm going to get out there and do this big thing. And you go, and that, so it spoke to me, but I wasn't resonating with it. I hadn't pulled it completely into my body. And so, I love what Victoria's saying. What if the thing that moves you also moves others? What if and I get that I live in the fear that it's going to move somebody else to be like, well, here, I'll give you an example. When I was writing one of the most meaningful songs of my life, and in fact, it's somebody just in one of these interviews, somebody said, what's your favorite recorded moment that you have? And I said, Catcher in the Rye. And it's on an album called Invention and Alchemy. And it's got a big timpani solo in the middle of it. And it's timpani and voice. Mm-hmm. And when I was inventing this piece, and it has to do with a man that I knew who played the bodhrán, which is this amazing drum, and had the bodhrán, which is like raw, but his voice was like the voice of an angel, and those two was just like amazing to me, and I wanted to experience it and share it. And so I was trying to write this song. But the first time when you are beginning to do it, it doesn't look that way. It looked different. And so the first time I did it, and I did it in a rehearsal, and there was a friend of mine in the front row of the rehearsal, and she went like this. Mm-hmm. And the song died. Mm-hmm. It died for 10 years. Until I saw this guy doing a timpani solo, and I thought that's the guy who can do this. And this, anyway, we ended up doing it. It was really powerful. But this, I'm always telling members of the Academy, everything is born slimy. Mm-hmm. But when you are, and one of the beautiful things about the Academy, and then Kathleen, I promise, I'm going to stop talking for a minute. One of the beautiful things is that we are in a collegial situation of discovery. And my teacher, Tony, taught us to share half-baked ideas, to share them and then we comment with each other, not about like, that wasn't very good. It's like you look for what is there so that you can help the person find that thing that speaks to them. They may not, when we first try to express it, it comes out just not that way. So how do we get through that, Mrs. Jungian Psychoanalyst?
Well, I think it's kind of, again, we have to develop a little bit of, we have to move from having baby skin, from the slightest little negative reaction, just like totally annihilates us, to having a little bit tougher skins to where we're able to say, okay, yeah, so that didn't quite work the way that I wanted to. And what part of it did I love? What part of it do I want to keep? What was it that spoke to me? The other thing I think we have to also distinguish is there is a difference between what speaks to us, that's our creative self-expression of our own raw process, and how we then might offer that in a relationship to a partner or to the larger collective if it's an artistic endeavor. And, I'm always saying to couples who talk about, well, I want to be honest with my partner. And I'll always say, well, there's a difference between being brutally honest and being relationally honest. We all have this idea that somehow somebody else should just be able to take all of our shit and compost it and make something good out of it. You know what? We have to take our own raw, primitive, unformed mess and make something of it, compost it so that we can offer something that's fertilizer. And I think part of getting comfortable with that whole experimentation process is realizing that sometimes what here I'm at and I'm feeling it, but I'm still in the composting stage. And I might need to compost it, process it a little bit more to shape it in a way that other people might receive it.
I hear you, and the question is how. I mean, I think that's part of what, my academy is that place where you
Hmm.
can do that. And I was lucky to have that with Tony, my teacher Tony.
Right.
Although sometimes there were pieces where he was just like, I don't get why you're doing this. And
Hmm.
and that was tough because then that piece would go underground and it would take something else to bring it up. So I think there's oh, it's really interesting because let's pull Victoria up, or do you want? Is there something else you
Well,
want?
I'll just say one quick thing
Yeah.
and then let's pull up Victoria. So, one of the things I would say, I think a key piece of it in terms of how do we do that with our own raw emotions and raw affect is being in relationship with someone who doesn't isn't reactive and
Mhm.
freaked out by our ships. So someone who
Right.
can be present with us to say, let's hold this, let's circumambulate this, let's see what what gold might be here. And I
Right.
think in terms of the artistic self-expression, that's a part of what you do as a mentor and as an educator is you're providing space for people to be with people in the half-baked, in the
Right.
messy places, to begin to let something grow, let something come together, coagulate from it.
Yeah, and also sometimes the biggest thing is they don't know what is working there.
Right.
They huh. And that's my job is to say, do you see you did
Yeah.
this and this is and so here's the kernel,
Yeah.
and here's what's amazing about that. So let's see what Victoria is
Yeah.
saying. A psychologist said, notice how she doesn't say which psychologist. Could be hers. A psychologist said that vulnerability is a part of human interactions. Learning to work with our vulnerabilities is part of being human.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is one reason I wonder, am I human? But that's another subject. Not everything I share resonated with everyone, but those who resonated with what I shared were moved from it. Whoops, it's do it for those who resonates. I love all of this stuff. And I'm beginning to think, I don't know what kind of trauma other people had in their childhood.
Mhm.
But I think that depending on what kind of trauma you have in your childhood, all of this sounds great. Yes, of course. Yes, of course, vulnerability is part of human interactions. But depending on what's happened in your childhood, and obviously this is a lot of what you deal with, Kathleen,
Mhm.
that is inaccessible. That
Mhm.
that very sane thing that you can hear it like, yeah, I believe that. I believe that. Can I do it? No.
Well, and again, that is the work of analysis or any kind of therapy or 12 step
Mhm.
support groups. I mean, we all need a container, a relationship
Mhm.
where we can learn being vulnerable doesn't mean we're going to get hurt. That we can be vulnerable and safe. And that indeed the best way to take care of ourselves is to be able to tend to our vulnerability. That when we are disconnected from our vulnerability, we are much more apt to end up in situations where we're repeatedly hurt because we don't we're ignoring our own inner guidance system. So, I think that is part of the work. And, one of my training analysts used to say the job of analysis is to help your analysand become more human. So to your question, am
Oh,
I human?
yeah.
And it took me a long time to understand what she meant. But
Mm.
I think this is a part of what she meant that when we can get comfortable and accept the reality of our own vulnerability, we also accept our strengths. It's a paradox.
It's really interesting as a person who struggles with this, I hear this and I think my reaction is probably similar to people who like, when I'm like, well, just do this, or it's a 2-5-1 and it's a 2-5-1 and the 5, it has a flat 9 on it. Part of me is just like, you're fine. Yeah, I get it. I get that, someone that lives across the street can do that. And I live over here. And therefore the chasm between what the sense that you're saying that makes absolute sense and what I can actually connect with is so big that it is as if, mice have chewed away the thing that lets the thing connect.
Well, to your woman who was talking about the electrical
Right.
system and spirit,
Right.
I mean, I think about our electrical system as being the life force that flows through us and our own organic trajectory. It is true. Everyone has places where the wires are missing, or there's a misfire, or there's a block. And again, those are all things that we each have to find our own path in being able to get consciousness of, and hopefully invite healing into those places. Yeah.
This is a container. Hip hop is a container. I do believe we can learn to work with vulnerabilities. What you're doing here is a container as well. Yeah. Huh. And I guess one of the things, the place that I think I feel most comfortable being vulnerable is on a stage and with, with music. And so, what does that mean? I don't know what it means, but.
Well, I think what you're saying is that there is something about when you're on stage with your instrument that you are able to settle into a place of comfort and oneness and security within yourself. And you then share from that place with your audiences.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm speaking my language. I'm speaking, it's like, thank God I have, like, it's like a duck getting into the water and like, now my feet mean something.
Yeah. And it's important. I mean, I think it's wonderful that your own innate intelligence, that's uniquely you, steered you in this direction, that you have that.
So how can others, if others are feeling like, I don't have that direction, I don't have that connection, how could they find it?
Well, it really all begins by learning to listen within. But again, often people have erected a lot of walls to hearing what it is going on inside of them. So there's a lot that has to be dismantled. But the simple answer is you have to begin to dismantle whatever blocks you from hearing your own guidance and essence. And then once you dismantle that, you have to begin to tune in and discern what it is your own essence wants. And then you have to begin to connect let that energy move you to something different.
I mean, if first you have to make your first $1 million, and then you take your first $1 million to make your next $1 million.
Well, but I mean, unfortunately, there isn't a quick 1, 2, 3 fix. I mean, this is the lifelong journey of individuation and moving into our wholeness. If it were, I always say, if there was a 1, 2, 3 formula, I wouldn't be here. I'd be on Oprah,
So, I mean, I will say that as you're speaking, and I'm thinking, share what speaks to you. And so I'm thinking that one way into this, I like drawing cartoons. It's just something I think is really fun. And, I've never made a living at it or any money at it, but it does speak to me. And I do, it's just fun. It's character. And I love character in life. And so I'm thinking, try sharing that, try sharing, even if it's just that I'm doing it more, try sharing with myself and with others.
Yeah. Draw cartoons for you. Let yourself express in the modality that allows you it allows the energy that's uniquely you to move outward.
Well, it sounds like you know everything. Where do you have struggled with this?
We're going to have to stop in a couple of
Oh
minutes, but we
yeah,
don't
now
have time
we
to
have
get
to
into that.
stop. Okay, I'm going to pull on
Let me just
Victoria.
say that I do practice. I have to
Uh-huh.
practice what it is I'm saying to you. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's, I like it. I like you, and like probably everyone who's listening. I have my own early life experiences of feeling less than and inadequate and worthless, and I still have places I struggle with that, even around playing music. I mean,
Mm.
getting ready for this concert on Sunday, I have my issues with that, and so part of what I've done is really looked toward mentors and looked toward for containers, because I think that is so important. And containers meaning including relationships that really can affirm what I'm doing and help me hear the strengths
Right.
and
Right.
and and then build on the strengths,
Right. Yeah.
And so, it's kind of like the title of the book, Start Where You Are. We have to be able to see where we are, and that which is, again, expressing what we want to share first, and then we can build on that.
So I'm seeing, again, why having a community that is of colleagues for discovery, which is what Hip Hop Academy is. It lets people are still scared to share, but when they do, they start seeing what's working, and that doesn't mean that they can always then share again afterwards.
That's
But
right.
I'm going to share what Victoria's saying, and then I know we have to go. Victoria said, "Well, I said at the beginning of the sentence that this is a container. I guess." All I was saying is that you're doing it already. I see. So Victoria's saying to me what I say to people in the academy. See this, you are doing it. Victoria says, I have horrible stage fright. That is not a good place for me to be vulnerable, but that's okay. I can share in other ways, as you do here, which is just a joy. And Kathleen said it beautifully. There is no formula. See, now I love formulas though. Anyway, I'll see if I can find one.
Find one and bring it back to us next week.
It'll be get your first $1 million and then use it to make your next $1 million. Well, thank you, Kathleen, and thank you, Victoria, and thank you for everybody else who joins us either while we're here in this container or as the container goes out and onto the podcast where you can share. And we love all the comments that we get from you. And Kathleen, thank you so much for this subject today. It was beautiful to look at, and I know I'm going to be thinking about it a lot more as the day goes on. And I hope all of you join us again and again and again and again.